Okay, I think we're ready to get started. A few minutes late, we're not usually running late, so I really appreciate everyone's patience. Today, we're really excited to have Molly and Laura, the team from OSCER, here to present, to kick off our meeting. So we're going to give them some time to introduce themselves, talk to us about their initiatives and what they're working on. They're part of the county, and then we'll go into our regular WSA agenda. But we're so happy you guys drove over from the other side of the island just to be here and chat with us and go for it.
Yeah, well, first of all, just thank you so much for the invitation. We're really grateful to meet with you folks. We're grateful for all your advocacy in the community as well. My name is Laura Ocasio, as Iceland said, Molly Dolphin, and I am the administrator at Office of Sustainability, Climate Equity and Resilience. Molly is outreach and information coordinator and specialist with our office. We have 7 in our office total. So a very small department so far. It's the newest department in the county. Was started by charter at the end of 2023 and didn't start standing up and having an interim administrator until the beginning of 2024, and then there's quite a process, and then of course with the change of administration, there's different timeline that built us out. But right now we have 7 and starting to feel like a fully functional department. We have multiple projects going on. We want to start out with a little quiz or question for you folks with a Mentimeter. So I don't know if anyone does have access to smartphones. Otherwise, we can also send it out and share if you want to share it. By all means, it is a way for us. It's in a very small way to collect even just simple data of what is on your mind when it comes to sustainability. What does it mean to you? And so those that can access, we have the QR on the board. It's in the chat for those that are on Zoom. And if you don't mind, just to plug it in, if you're able. The Menti code is D387. 8387. Just it'll pop up a word cloud, what we're thinking in terms of what is sustainability. Oh, yeah, it does have the option to put 3. So these, this one of the top 3 words that sustainability is to right now. Yeah. Yes, when I get home. Right. Yeah, it'll pop up on the screen and we'll see, changes size depending on how many people choose the same. So
that was mine.
We're putting you guys on the spot.
I feel like it's always best to just choose the first 3 that come to your mind.
Mm-hmm. But that's harder.
But you do whatever works for you. And thank you for those of you who have joined on Zoom, and please feel free to click in the chat and join our Menti word cloud. No. Yeah, so we have some of the largest, maybe they've been put in more than once by different people, Protection, Goleana, Future, The Future, so that'd be bigger if it's the exact same, but it's the same, it's there. Prosperity, production, maintenance, legacy for future, enough, balance, thinking of others, conservation, resiliency, local produce. All right in line, beautiful concepts. This is all part of our charter and really why OSCER was created in the first place. See if anyone else has any more, but it looks like that's it. So
I'll go over to.
yeah. So thanks for playing with us.
Yeah.
Thanks for playing.
It's fine.
So resiliency was one of them, right? So climate, our Office of Sustainability, Climate Equity and Resilience encompasses many things, but we were really grateful for you folks to have us there. So we are just going through a little bit of a transformation in our office in terms of strategic planning and shifting our focus. So you may notice that our vision and mission is shifting just a little bit. It really encompasses the same thing, but we're just really trying to be clear about the words that we choose and where we're headed. So Hawaii, our vision is that Hawaii County operations and community partnerships reflect a deep commitment to land and people, ensuring all communities benefit from collaborative, data-informed policies that protect our environment, culture, and future generations. And we did see a lot of those words in your word cloud. So thanks for that input and it being a mirror for us. Our mission is to empower Hawaii Island's self-reliance by uniting county departments and the community to share knowledge, build capacity, and coordinate resources related to sustainability, climate action, equity, and resilience. And so the theory and ideas behind that is looking at our own county first and seeing how we can improve, become more sustainable, get out of silos. And so OSCER's job is to, connect, collaborate, build capacity, and really look at the functions within our county governance first, and outward in community and vice versa, because we represent community and engage with community, and that there's this reciprocal relationship, but looking at how we can improve in the areas of sustainability, climate equity, and resilience, but not in silos, right? A lot of our departments have projects going on, and oftentimes, there is a focus on what is happening only solely in those departments, but we really build capacity out when we start to look at systems and how, certain projects can just partner together to make a lot of our many hands making light work, for example. So we accomplish our mission through strengthening community connections, fostering the cross-departmental that I was just referring to, collaboration, facilitating data and knowledge exchange, maintaining sustainability projects and programs. We'll get in a little bit later into some of the programs that we are unfolding in our office, and integrating sustainable and traditional practices into county operations and programs. I also wanted to say, if there's any questions along the way, need clarification, interjections, please don't hesitate along the way, because actually it would be great to have more of a dialogue. We have come here also to share with you folks what we're doing in the office and what we can provide, and perhaps even link up with places that we can collaborate on. But we're also here just as much to learn from you folks, which was beautiful about going around with the mayor's talk stories, but also coming out previously to the event that was held with the panel is really to build that relationship and learn from you folks, because there's a lot of lived experience and expertise as well in this room. So our responsibility, like I said, connect, coordinate, and build capacity. So that is really fundamentally our job, is to seek out community partners, build those relationships, not only within our departments in our governance structure, but also with community, and to begin to expand on those things. taking in terms of coordinating some of the ideas that come out of community. If there's no way to partner with county, it's a lot, and vice versa. The efforts perhaps are diminished, right? So we really focus on building out those capacities with the engagements that we're still developing. So our main functions, as you can see, program development, project management, grant writing, especially in our previous in federal administration, there were a lot of grants coming down for projects that were related to justice, equity, sustainability, and renewable energy, for example. A lot of more projects, and so that was part of the conversations around the development of OSCER. However, as we are shifting with different times and administration, we shift our focus, but there's still a lot of grant writing that we partner with community organizations. We've partnered with civil defense to bring in some funding too for different projects. We have a project going right now which relates to the data collection around our asset management, and also looking at our energy efficiency within our county, especially our facilities, looking at how energy efficient they are and where we can make improvements. First of all, with the data is working with HECO to get the data on how much energy consumption our facilities are even using, for example, and then where there are easy, well, it's easy to all of them, right? Where we can make improvements, even just in the type of light fixtures, where there's a cost benefit overall to the county. I do believe that our energy bill for our county is a lot. And so looking at ways that we can reduce that, being that our fiduciary responsibility is with our funds, our taxpayer money that funds, our public funding that supports the programs. So really looking at our energy efficiency, that's a block grant that was received, and we're working with pretty much all of the departments that have facilities within our county. So Department of Public Works, fire, civil defense, police, and Parks and Rec predominantly.
And then just to add, like prior to our office, all of this data did not exist, so we didn't even know how much energy we were consuming as a county. We don't know how old our rooftops are for solar, so this is really helping us get like some of that baseline data.
And collecting even, believe it or not, even things like our facilities plans in one location. Aside next to the data about how much energy is consumed, and translating that for our counties into also a financial presentation, right? What becomes more cost effective in the long run. If we can save X amount on energy usage, but it costs this much to do the upgrade, and it pencils out to where that's a benefit within a short amount of time, that seems like an easy, some of those are really low hanging fruit. So and the last two, public awareness on a lot of topics. So we try to, continually gather information. That's why I said for us, you folks are our resource, as well as we're here to serve as well. Collect, and same thing with connections and collaborations with different organizations. So this is just a little bit of an overview across time, just to let folks know that it didn't come out of nowhere. And there are also a lot of state laws that have come out that have kind of dictated the development of offices of sustainability across all counties. That in about 2008 to 2012, and this was, I believe, Billy Kenoi administration, he started looking at the similar thing that we just talked about. We didn't have a one place where we understood what our county assets were. So that was more focused on assets. And and looking at how we can become more energy efficient. So he stood up what was called the County Green Team. So it was within, I believe it was within the mayor's office, and some of our other counties, like County of Kauai, their Office of Sustainability, or the work of the Sustainability Office is within economic development in the mayor's office. For example, Honolulu City and County, it's a separate office like ours, where they carry out those the same similar duties. So it moved then from 2008 to about 2019, we saw a trend of political commitments that were more legislated from the state. So we have, for example, there's a climate change plan 2050. You see it referenced in our general plan. That was a plan that was put forth by the legislature and different consultants around how to become more energy efficient. They started to look at these energy goals and focus on, for example, getting off cesspools by 2050, become energy resilient and on renewable energy by 2045, and started looking more on political large scale political goals and commitments. Aligning ourselves with things like the United Nations sustainability goals, Paris Agreement, things of that sort. Then also what did come out of that were commitments for green transportation. What else? I'm just thinking of, but anyways, then moving on to 2023, our county passed a resolution to adopt an integrated climate action plan for our county. That also, again, was also kind of predicated by the movement on the state level of saying, hey, we're looking at these state goals, counties, how are you going to implement it? How are you going to, how are you going to take these goals and implement them in action? What are your action and what's your plan? So within R&D at that time, and a process that evolved into the timing of the building of OSCER as an actual office, the integrated climate action plan was developed. It's on our website as well. So if folks are interested, it's just to browse it later, or if you have questions that come up, if you're looking,
It's kind of like bedtime reading.
Yeah, light reading,
through it.
But really, it's a matter of coming out with some action items, and so we have that plan was adopted by resolution by our county council as a commitment to, again, trying to put their foot forward to make our county more sustainable. And there's 290 action items that have come out of it. And so all of the projects that we work on, relate to and link up with these very specific actions throughout. And it can be multiple different actions, obviously, for one project. And then here we are, OSCER, like I said earlier, 2023, and now we're getting fully rolling. Just like if you can think though for a moment, sustainability, climate, equity, and resilience, it pretty much relates to almost everything. And so it's quite an undertaking, especially from the perspective of, could be from a legislative standpoint or from community, that there's a lot of, what is the word, where expectations of you're going to fix everything immediately. And I wish I had that magic wand. In fact, I would probably pick a few of you also in this room tomorrow, my magic wand for a while, because of the expertise that sits among us. And sometimes it's like, oh, I can see that you know what you would do with this magic wand. Here you go. At the same time, I don't mean to diminish the work at all. So yeah.
So this is more of the integrated climate action plan, basically was outlined.
Yeah, so some of the actions have to do with infrastructure, policy, research and data, engagement and outreach, resource leveraging. So because we're new, we are just now, like I said, re-entering into that strategic planning, but we will work with council members on policy shifts, looking at places within our Department of Environmental Management, because sustainability and our waste production is intricately related. We have to look at some places where we can create policy around things like maybe, and these are just ideas at the moment, of course, it's subject to the whole legislative process. Construction and demolition waste, you know, there's embedded carbon in all of these materials, and what are we doing with them? Are they going to the landfill? We're working in a community partnership right now with Hawaii Island United Way on a furniture bank. We do have some pilots that are happening. I mean, and it's also very similar to what Department of Environmental Management already has in their transfer station thrift stores. But just knowing that those contracts are nearing their end, and we'll need a new RFP, that we can really work with folks to get some language in there that's appropriate for right now. I do know, for example, the furniture bank project, they are connected with folks that, you know, if there's an estate clean out, instead of taking that whole dumpster load all the way and putting it straight in the landfill, that they're, you know, creating a resource for service providers to come with their clients who are getting them into supportive housing, and they need to come shopping, you know, and it's a whole empowerment process. There's a lot of equity related issues in that, to really, and then it's also resource recovery, right? Instead of sending that to our landfill, it perfectly good, really amazing furniture that oftentimes does go straight to the landfill. So looking at projects, that's just one of them, but there's so many, and just really looking at how we can start to help to seed and initiate those, or maybe they've already been seeded and initiated, but they just need something else. And so we look at a lot of those projects and help them roll. And sometimes it's a matter of creating pitch decks and talking to different community, either funders or even our administration, in just saying that this is something that can happen.
Where is that furniture made?
I'm sorry?
Where is that furniture made?
So right now it's housed in the office. They have office space. It's a fairly good space at the Hawaii Island United Way, but they are looking for a larger site, and that's in Hilo. But again, as a starting project for us, we want to look at how we can help other communities do the same thing. And maybe even that's where United Way is all island based. Their office happens to be there. The reason why the location, the furniture is housed there at the moment is because they're just starting and they're still looking for a larger location, right? They have a lot of folks that are willing to donate to them right now, and they have a lot of connections with folks that do estate cleanouts where they can get more. But just as a starting, like kind of a model, it's like the real life pitch deck. Instead of just a deck, they did the deck. They applied for grants. They didn't get this last one. They're still we're working with them to get another grant. And I believe they're gonna apply for a county impact grant, for example, so that they can start to build out. But really the pinch point, I think, at this point is location.
And things we've been doodling on is like, you know, maybe exploding locations like community health center for like baby items.
Right.
So like,
Yeah.
you know, we can get like used baby items into the hands of like new mothers, things like that, you know, there's different types of needs in different areas. So figuring out how to, maybe it's a floating bank and rotates.
I got a copy of the Steve right now, my garage. Just to float somewhere else.
See, and that's the thing of what we're finding is there's no shortage of, and folks do want to get it to.
Yeah,
To
we'd rather
someone
give
who
it
can
to
use it.
somebody rather than put it in the landfill, but
Yes.
it's my third week on it, so.
Mhm.
Next week it's going in the landfill.
No, yeah,
I hate to do it, I hate it.
no, I know.
It's just,
So that's kind of a vision and a bigger project that we would really love to see.
I think a lot of the places like, you know, coach services and
Yeah.
they can't come over here. They don't have the manpower to come over here and some of the other ones. you
Yeah.
know, So.
But then a lot of, so I don't know if you guys, well, you probably know this, but a lot of people get free things through buy nothing groups. Are you
Yeah.
familiar with that?
Oh,
So
yeah,
like that's how
absolutely.
people in the community talk to each other.
Yeah.
And there's one for every town. So like, would the county ever say, we have a buy nothing warehouse, right? Like we have buy nothing day, like,
and offer it up. And it's great because people are like, oh, well, I have diapers and my daughter grew out of them, and because what we do with Aslan's, we share bags of diapers.
Right.
And we put up the buy nothing, and someone showed up the same day, they're like, oh, perfect, and like, it's one less thing in the landfill, so.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's ways for you guys to facilitate that, but I feel like there's
Yeah.
just.
And that's kind of the mission of our office, honestly,
Yeah.
like that's why we were created, is to help serve that type of.
Yeah.
Restore store could become yeah.
I think the restore store is currently closed, right, out here in my.
Yeah. But Con is still going.
Onyx.
It's transportation, I think, is a big part of it, right? There's costs involved. Yeah. Yeah. They can't lift it.
How are we doing on time? Okay, it's 5 more minutes. Okay,
Yeah.
and then we can open it up to questions.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so here's some of our priority areas. Again, I think some of these are really on the word, what's it called? Word cloud that we made, right? Environmental and cultural resources, so supporting preservation of our natural resources, climate resilience to prepare our people for infrastructure and changing weather, which of course, and this is why this group exists, in a lot of ways. Local systems and local self-reliance, and which was on the word cloud, support local businesses, local food production. And I think what's fundamental in there is the distribution of that food system too, right? We saw that, especially in Lahaina post-fire, and in different scenarios as well, where the distribution system, if the and we saw it during COVID as well, actually, for our island, where you had all these mushrooms being grown that were at a market that all of a sudden had no market. And so to be able to pivot in times like that and to plan for it and prepare. So that is something that is on our agenda, is to really look into that. And that would be more of a partnership with research and development at this time, because agriculture systems still is a division under research and development. But again, we partner with all, so it's really not a problem, but definitely looking at that in terms of resiliency. Clean energy and transportation, so really helping to deepen into these concepts and actions to transition to renewable. We do work with a little bit with MTA at this time, but right now they've been bringing in they have at least 3. So they're looking at the electric buses. So they have 3 electric buses coming, and the infrastructure 4.
If the buses will be back.
Do that.
How long is it going back?
I'm sorry to give you misinformation. Things happen fast, and sometimes the telephone didn't work. Wow, I'm gonna have to look into that. Interesting. Yeah.
Okay, I think we can probably end on this
Yes.
slide.
So now that
Okay.
this is her like.
So the facilities conditions assessment, Laura really covered. We've been doing a participatory storytelling workshop, which was initially intended to be 10 CBOs, and then we ended up opening it up to every CBO
Community-based organization, sorry.
Yes, that applied, and it has been led by Auntie Hikuhi, who is a Kanapa'oli, who has a ton of knowledge and just like manao to share with us. So it's been a wonderful workshop series. We're wrapping up the fourth one soon. We are doing a community science heat sensor program right now. So we helped Vibrant Hawaii get a grant to do heat sensors across the island. So they're distributed all over. We really haven't collected data on heat here, and this measures both temperature and humidity. So it's more of how you feel temperature rather than just the digits you see on your phone. And that's going to probably lead into some other projects with that. So we're running that right now through the end of September. We're launching La'au Love, which is going to be a native and new plant community event where we are going to different mokus across the island to get native plant and new plants into community hands. We have a reduced waste pilot program within our county
because you could show up to community meetings and mini water bottles will be there. So we have water jugs and, you know, compostable
Yes.
utensils and things. And then the last one is a collaboration with the 4 counties and Department of Health. The heat brochure that you saw was last summer. And that was like one of our first successful collaborations between state and all the counties. So this summer, we have been focusing on invasive species, climate change and health impacts. But there's been a lot of hands in that pot, and it's looking like it's gonna be a fall campaign, because we have not yet launched it. But yeah, that's kind of the wrap up of some of the projects that we're working on.
I see on there, the thing that I thank you so much for sharing everything, I really appreciate it, and if you looked ahead on our agenda for a couple of steps here, there is a specific request that we have out right now, which is help with brain writing support, and I see on line 3 there, Vibrant Hawaii got some help on some brain writing support, so we're gonna be calling.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, we're definitely be talking to you about it.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate it. The capacity building is challenging.
Yeah, and that's we hear all the time, right? And that's really, I know that we keep saying these like 3 C's over and over, but that's really where we have identified the need for our support, so. Capacity.
Especially around language that's particularly related to the subject matter, you know, not necessarily exclusively, but it really does help. So just a perfect example, I think that was civil defense, right? Our civil defense partnership, they needed a lot of language around climate change and some data and things, so just help being able to be a resource on that and not necessarily recreate the wheel and have to hire somebody else entirely. Here we had it.
And we also have had to like adjust to the moment, right? So we had a grant out with NOAA that got sent back to us, and we had to comb through it and change words just because of where we are in this current climate. So even just knowing how to rephrase things, that's still, you know, so that we haven't heard back on whether we got that grant. We'll see.
They haven't said no yet.
Yeah.
That's good. That's a Kona side project too, at a pump site in Kona.
Any questions? Any other questions? Okay, 2 hands.
You have, what happened to that search station then? That, Russia.
Sorting station, oh, like recycle sorting.
The $12 million search station that they built, what's happening?
That's a great question. Being that that's Department of Environmental Management and not something that I have tons of background on that particular station. I do know that in general, we don't have there. I think this was part of a larger shift, and I think it started even before COVID in terms of global market for recycled products, especially plastic, shifted dramatically. And so no sense sort if there's nobody to send it to or no purchase, because, and that, I think that was also similar to our scrap metal. And that's why our car program, we do have a program within DEM where you can scrap, I believe it's 2 vehicles per year, but it has to do, how much we can do also has to do with the price of that metal on the market, so.
And I think like, I'm not sure what happened at this sorting facility, but I know like in my own community of Volcano, so Atlas Recycling used to have the contract through the county to do the recycling there. And then when it came up for rebid, it wasn't worth it to Atlas because their facility kept getting broken into and they couldn't staff it, so they didn't rebid. And like in Volcano, we lost the ability to recycle there, and that might be a similar thing that has happened. So, yeah, if there's no one to do the bid, you know, to put in the bid, it's hard. No. Like they would put up cameras, and then the cameras kept getting stolen, and then like even the high five glass bottles would get stolen. I'm like, just put them outside the gate so people stop putting the gates. I mean, yeah,
Crazy. Yeah. Bob, you had a question?
Well, what I'm trying to sort out is for your presentation, it's not clear where there are areas where our priorities as a community interface with your work. And we're trying to understand, among other things, how you can help us. And one of them is building another access code. So that we can get out of here if there is a fire. We know now, we can't get out and hopefully. I learned years ago that backed up. Stop and if fire came in, we ended up like or behind. So that's one question. Is that an issue that you help us? Second one is more energy related, which may be more within your bailiwick, which is the fact that the water system here is powered entirely by HECO power plants, which pumps the water, which is used by the utility, pumps the water up above us, then it flows down like gravity from there. From the outflow. And so one of the things that we've been looking at is the fact that the county uses the windmills over at the Waikōloa field to help pump the water over there. And I found an article online that said that the county felt that it saved about $1 million in energy costs by having the windmills there. It supplies some of the energy that they use for pumping water. But we've been trying to learn more about what the county experience has actually been. To see whether or not that's something we can present to our water utility and say, instead of being dependent on HECO entirely, and if HECO shuts down because of a fire event or the risk of fire, just the red flag shut down. We lose water pressure.
Yeah.
They've got some backup systems. They're going to allow them this half of their regular amount of water. But those are only good for a couple of days.
Right.
Then we're out of them. And then if we're in the process of fighting the fire, we don't have the water to fight it with. So the impacts are devastating.
Right.
The one possibility here is to actually save energy and reduce costs of pumping water. And we'd like some help with that. And is that an issue where you would feel comfortable?
Yes, I think I need definitely to learn a little bit more and do some research, especially communicating with Department of Water Supply. I did learn a lot of this from meetings prior with community members, right? I know specifically, like I can talk about the access road. What the mayor is doing today on that, like actually today and where it's at, I don't exactly know. I would have to communicate with the office of the mayor. But I know that the conversations were such that there's communication between and negotiations with landowners, with Department of Transportation on the state level, right? Different departments have pieces to this, so I don't have all the details on my head. I think probably the folks in the room do.
We Bob and I have
So-
probably more.
I think
We're not asking you for information. We don't think that you would have more than you know.
Yeah.
We definitely know more about that situation.
Right.
But how we can potentially partner with you to encourage further movement on such a thing,
Well-
right? And that's what we're getting.
Yeah.
We're getting.
Well, we have to be at the meetings too, right? So this is, I think, a beautiful first step in the sense that, you know, that we are committed to being there and joining you folks. We only know as much as we know, and if we're not at the meeting that's happening, we don't have much to contribute, right? So that's part of it. I don't think it's just about being at the meeting because that's not an action item. Being at the meeting is not the action item, right? It's moving out of that in terms of support. Which is probably similar. I'm just imagining in terms of us as an administration going around and listening to communities, it's not, even though it's not isolated, right? Almost every community has some kind of desire. I know this came up in the volcano meeting, which is where Molly is from as well. There are certain portions of that area that they're concerned about as well in terms of access. So, and again, that is not to diminish, because we also have this area is a wildfire prone. So absolutely recognize that. I've listened to a lot of you folks have given testimony. We do our best to follow a lot of what's happening at the legislative branch as well. So we do hear the conversations, and I personally, and as our office, absolutely empathize and know that action needs to be taken on these things. So in terms of support, it's there. How we can help is then we need to see where we can help in that. But in terms of, I know we did apply. I wish Kendra was here because she was more intricately engaged in ETIP. We also have a Kendra, but it's through I believe it's Hawaii State Energy Office, and we're partnering with the Department of Water Supply. Of course, this is on a grant, so we have to see, and it's technical support for something very similar to what you're speaking of. So again, it's not super far-fetched from some of the conversations that we are engaging in, and maybe this is a perfect moment to recognize that that's an opportunity to bring you folks in when it's the appropriate time in that project.
And I did just have a conversation around the solar power to the water well with a contact at Department of Water Supply. So like, while the action item is not the meeting, we can help bridge like the start of conversations too. Like, that's where we can come into play, is like knowing who is best to start those conversations with.
Yeah, we would welcome your participation, help us, even just stimulate this conversation.
Yeah.
We recently requested a meeting with someone at Water Division or Department to find out more. But we have, we're talking to anybody who listens.
Yeah. I know that because like we're
We did hear back and just said that, yeah, I need.
No, Pete has told me I
yeah.
have something for you, for council member. I know he's online, which is wonderful. Thank you, council member Eustace, for being here. And I apologize also for not recognizing you earlier, but really appreciate your work on this and representing your community. But please also, if you folks in your office are informed of communication opportunities, meetings, etc., please don't hesitate to
And all
include
the
us.
space after
Yeah.
this meeting,
Yeah.
we've all related to that.
Yeah.
But Matt can speak to the.
Yeah, I'm gonna meet with water supply on Monday.
Oh, okay.
We're gonna talk about it, so.
Great, it's rolling.
It's coming up very soon.
But yeah, when you run into those type of roadblocks, we can be the internal squeaky wheel.
Oh, that'd be great. That would be wonderful.
You know, so it just always helps to have like a county contact, and then like we can find out who the right person is.
Perfect. So what I've gotten out of this meeting, thank you so much for coming. It's wonderful. I do want to move on to our other parts of it, but I think the best thing is that we have an ally. We have someone to reach out to, we have a partner. There's nothing specific and concrete quite yet, but we got some other people inside kind of. Sorry, you guys.
Actually, next question, just going, but thinking of it, sorry. Around the grants and your support. Obviously, you have experience with it and, you know, the language we talked about. Are you also sort of clearing out of awareness of where grants opportunities are available? Do you have, you know, sort of that kind of clearinghouse, or is it more of, hey, once you know about them, we can help? Or is it
Both, yeah, that was my answer too, both, because again, if other folks in community happen to come across something and we didn't. It's wonderful if people share, and vice versa. We do have a newsletter, we try to put those opportunities online, in our monthly newsletter. If things come out and they have deadlines, sometimes you hear about a grant like 4 days before it's due, and again, many hands make light work. Sometimes it is possible, and sometimes you can move fast. And we could put a blast out to our list, or at least folks that are identified, especially that are interested in certain aspects. We think of them. Ultimately, I think the larger concept over the next. So what I didn't put in this, or one of the things we skipped in the slideshow is like our build out, right? Here, we're in that, we're just getting to that place of like, our offices stood up. Right, and then the rollout, and this is part of, you know, putting the pinky toe into that next 5 years. And then what we are seeing in terms of 5-10 years, we do unfortunately know that sometimes government moves at a snail's pace, but then at the same time, that's kind of part of the reason for our office is because we are in an emergency. And we want to make sure to do some of these things a little faster, and so that's where we like to see ourselves a little bit more like mycelium between some of the departments and between community, and just help with that networking and the communication. Again, I always want to preface, we're 6 people, 7 people, you know, and again, so capacity is real, there is an end of the day, and we push beyond that. I know that all of us in the office believe in this, so as far as allyship, 100%. We will keep growing it.
But yeah, the newsletter is probably the best way to stay informed with like grants. Although sometimes I'll like send out the newsletter, I'm like, oh my gosh, of course this grant has come across my desk after this has gone out. But
And there's a newsletter sign up on the table that they left here, so I'm already on it. So you guys can jump into and join the
you
newsletter.
can either scan the code or you can just write your name on it.
Perfect, perfect. Well, thank you guys so much. Please stay for as much of our meeting agenda
Thank you.
as you're able to.
Thanks.
And I guess Matthew and Bob, I'd love for you to kick us off with your update about the PUC and Hawaiian Electric's wildfire safety strategy plan and what's going on with that.
So for people who don't know yet, I don't know if you two are the new ones who have not heard of the PUC yet, but the PUC is the Public Utilities Commission. This is the sort of cryptic, it's difficult to understand, they're a little obscure. It's an organization at the state level that oversees all public utilities. They oversee HECO, they oversee the water companies, they oversee shipping, all sorts of stuff. And the legislature has mandated that HECO put together a wildfire safety strategy that has been put in front of them. It has been being reviewed for what, 8 months now, 7 months now, something like that. And there's been a lot of activity in the last month on that docket. So both the consumer advocate, who represents all ratepayers, has submitted several interesting documents. And the other major intervener, Life of the Land, Henry Curtis, has submitted an interesting document. They both submitted statements of position last Friday on whether the PUC should accept or adopt the, I don't even know what the phrasing is, but whether they should approve of this document or not, the wildfire safety strategy. And both the consumer advocate and Life of the Land said that they should accept it, but not approve it. And they listed out hundreds of deficiencies in the plan that needed to be updated, and we agree with a lot of it, but it was very confusing, and we don't really know where it's going to go from there. We are going to submit a comment as well, and I don't know if Bob wants to add anything on after that. Is that a top line efficient summary? Where do you want to add as well, Bob?
Yeah, well, the key point that we are making to the commission is that the HECO plan focuses almost exclusively on trying to evaluate the strategies available to them, make sure that they're not the source of ignition and wildfire. And that from our perspective, what's equally important is to make sure that they maintain service during periods of wildfire events and other emergencies, so that we can have water. And that having water is probably more important to being able to protect our community from fire than just preventing ignition in the first place. So from our standpoint, their plan is not adequate or approvable because it doesn't really address the reliability of their system in the face of heaviness. Their focus is trying to prevent the liability that they incurred in Lahaina from having started that fire. And that is important. It's important to everybody that they not be starting fires all over the state. But that's not enough. And so we would welcome your support in communicating with UC around this. That there are other issues beyond fire ignition that are important to the county. Having us say that for Waikōloa Village is one thing. Having the county say it to the PUC is quite another. And having you step into this process would be important. Now, the legislature has stepped into it. The PUC initiated this process last summer with an order to the utilities to submit fire mitigation plans. But in the meantime, in this legislative session, the legislature has now passed legislation directing the PUC to approve a plan for the utility as a way of determining whether or not the utility should be capped, its liability for risk should be capped financially. So that's a whole new process, separate from the one that the PUC started last year. And that one, under the statute, requires a rulemaking. So that's going to be open to everybody. It's not just going to be a docket for HECO. It's going to be a rulemaking to address the whole question of what a fire mitigation process should include. And the statutory definition of a wildfire mitigation plan includes both the question of ignition and the question of community resilience. So the legislature is requiring the PUC to address both. And at this point, the HECO plan clearly does not address it.
Right. It only addresses ignition, not the resilience.
It primarily addresses ignition. Yeah, I mean, there's some other references.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's not strategically designed to address resilience.
One thing that we didn't mention too is the Park County Sustainability Network, which is this network that we have across the different counties across the state of the offices that are like ours. And we work with them to support different policies going through the legislative session. And so I think some of that is aligning, like we can help also get other counties to make this type of accountability for that too.
What is it called?
It's the Park County Sustainability Network.
Well, the question now, the legislature has kind of passed this on to the PUC.
Yeah, now it's intervening
And-
or
and-
commenting.
Yeah, and the rulemaking doesn't require party status. You don't have to apply to be a party. Anybody can comment. And that's the thing that we hope the county will participate in. And we encourage you to support our position to emphasize resilience of the energy system.
I'm seeing a meeting brewing.
We'll request it.
Yes, please. I'll leave you my information.
So, yeah, so the PUC is moving forward, it's not done yet, but we've seen that in the news a little bit in the last few days, we're keeping a close eye on that. Anything else we wanna talk about the PUC, or we?
Well, I'll just mention that had planned to have a comment ready to submit today.
Hmm.
And last night, my draft disappeared from my computer, and I had to start.
Oh, sorry, okay, well.
I'm sorry.
And I don't count when it comes, we're gonna get it soon.
That's frustrating.
It's one of those disasters that make you feel like you're a victim of technology.
Okay, so the next thing that was interesting event that happened this last month is we went on a tour of the areas where goat grazing is occurring on Waikōloa Village Association property. Ross Pacheco leases about 900 or so acres, at the northwest corner of the village's property. And it was fascinating. We learned a ton. Waikōloa emailed me, Waikōloa Kenny, who was at our last meeting, they emailed me last minute saying, hey, I'm gonna come in next week, can I come check it out? And everyone, my email was all over it, it was very exciting. And when I looked at it, we drove around, we were out there for like 3-4 hours. And what we did is we came up the Queen K at the Puaco utility easement road access, so instead of turning Mackay down towards Puaco, we went Malca, there's that like little notch in the hill right there. And we drove straight up that utility access road, I'd never done it before, and it is a trip, it is wild, cause it's paved. It's a single lane, so you can't do two lanes back and forth, but it's paved all the way up to the Malca utility easement road along the village, so it's got the power lines. That runs all the way, yes, please, that runs all the way north up to the windmills. So it tees, there's a T junction right there, so it's not paved on the north-south route on the utility easement road. But it is paved going east-west Mackay Malca right there. And all of those white circles you see on the screen up there, those are all county reservoirs. So each one of those is a county well site, and those tanks, contain 2 to 4 million gallons or something like that a pop. And that runs all the way down, so the county services all of the resorts from Mount Alani, up Mauna Kea, up Kauai, all of that. And then Hawaii Water Service does the further south ones, does the Hilton, the Marriott, and all of the village. But Ross Pacheco has a strip right along that entire road, right? Basically from where those two are on the left side to where the two are on the right. And it's a little border right there.
And this is what kind of road is this?
It's a utility easement road. It's owned and operated, as far as we know, by the state. I believe it's run by the state DLNR, but we aren't really sure. We're gonna be asking a lot of people about this over the next week or so, to see what the deal is. Because this is not endorsed, this is not official government policy or anything like that. Just as many caveats as I can put in front of this as possible. If I lived at the north end of the village, I would be buying a 4x4 Jeep and I would be taking that road out. Because you can totally, it's totally accessible, there's like 2 gates along the way, and there's not gonna be traffic. So take that for whatever it's worth, again, caveat, don't sue me, blah, 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 okay, but that's how I would do it. And if I were Chemo Alameda, what I would be doing is I would be hopping on the phone right now to see how I could put a chip seal on that road right there, and then remove the gates. Because that will be right away, that will be a faster exit out of the village than anything that we can dig out of Waikōloa Drive going down Mount Mackay. Just because that's gonna take longer to put that together, and this already exists. So that's gonna be a thing that I'm gonna be discussing tomorrow and Monday and lots of times. I'm gonna be talking about that and bringing that up. The other interesting thing is this we don't need to dive into this really deeply, but we're gonna try and help get Ross some water. He's having a lot of difficulty getting a water meter, and that means that he can't actually pen his goats in, because he can't pen them in without vital resources, right? And so it's only penned in, it's only fenced in on 3 of the sides, and he's ready to go on the 4th side once he gets a water meter, which is like a whole political thing that we're trying to sort out. So yes.
If you do get updates on them opening the gates on that road, is there a way you can send out emails
Oh, if there's,
about it?
absolutely, if there's news that something new exists and there's a new way to get out. I mean,
You can subscribe to we have our own email list too. Right now, we just send out meeting reminders, and then if we're doing anything with the legislature or representatives, we'll ask people for support. But I can give you our website where you can sign up for our email newsletters. Yeah.
The reservoirs and tanks.
Yeah.
That's remote from the pumps and
no, the pumps are right there, and so
there was my question, sorry, is regarding, because we talked about this a little bit. Sort of the security around that, because
Yes.
one thing, if you think about the reservoirs, we drive by them all the time going up and down to Waikōloa, it's right up the road, so
Oh, yeah.
they're somewhat right there. But with pumps and wells and windmills, I'm wondering, as far as resilience and protection of the infrastructure.
oh, I hear
As
that.
opposed to,
This is never gonna be our main road.
Okay.
This never, ever is gonna be improved to a road that will be open to traffic. But if it's an
Yeah,
emergency and it's a matter of life and death, and we gotta get out of here, that's the way that
No,
that exists. I hear what you're saying, 100%, you do not want. I have driven past it, I've seen what it is, you do not want people driving past that, for sure.
vital infrastructure.
Yeah, that road's very important, I know that road. It was pretty intense. It was also fascinating because you could see the areas that were grazed right next to the areas that aren't grazed, and it's night and day. It's crazy how easy it is if you actually put some effort into it and set it up appropriately. So that was really cool and interesting. I'm just kind of evolving straight into this drone mapping project on the next step right there. Ross Pacheco just so happened, I don't know if it just happened, his wife Donna works at UH Community College, and she helps run a GIS/drone program where they train students on how to do surveying and official GIS stuff and prepare them for their commercial drone license test afterwards. And we've been continuing the conversations with Josiah and Waikōloa, and then another friend of mine, Jamin, who's a professor at University of California, San Diego. And he actually wants us to apply for this joint fire science project specifically to get drone mapping of this area. The big idea is we'll get a high quality 3D map of the area, a digital twin of the region, and then be able to model where it would be most effective and most impactful to have fuel loads reduction. Then we would go out and fence those areas in, send Ross's goats in, trim out that area, follow it up with a little bit of a green belt along the borders, so it's a bit of a shield. The one important aspect of that is getting the drone up in the air to get a very, very, very high quality image of the whole region. And that's something that we are very serious about, and it's looking like it's going to happen in the next couple of months. So at least the applications are going to happen. So this is also transitioning into the grant writing thing. There are 2 specific grants that Waikōloa and Josiah have shared with us. One is through the US Forest Service, USDA, the Joint Fire Science Program, and that one's due on September 18th. That one we will be applying for relatively soon to hopefully get some grad students out to do that work, to do the scanning, to buy the drone, and to actually do the modeling on the ground work. But even if it doesn't get funded, Jamin was telling me that just on Monday this week that it's really good to have a proposal in hand because you never know which building you're going to need, and you can hand it off to right away. So it's a practice. It's a muscle that we need to exercise, and we are going to be doing that very seriously. So yeah, there's 2 of them. The one that's coming up in September is going to be focused on this drone mapping project. And then the one that's later in February, Josiah's probably gonna leave that a little bit more to be a little bit more about modeling. But those are on the horizon. Any questions about goats and drones and fire breaks and all of that stuff? All of that vertical. Yes, ma'am.
Fire break, what's that? Is that how you like stop a fire from spreading?
Yeah, so there's a couple different. The terminology is a little tough. So if it's done beforehand, before a fire happens, they would call it a fuel break. Where literally there's 2 of them that are mounted of the village. The one that's closest, so the power lines easement, that's not a fire break or a fuel break in my. Like that's an access road for fire trucks and everything, but 40-50 feet, every number is going to be a little lower, but you need at least 100 plus for a wider space. We've got 2 of those. The closest one is the utility easement road that's across from the Boo just mounted of the village where all the water accesses. There's those 2 yellow gates. That one's about 4.5 miles long. And then there's a second one that's further out about 3.5 miles that's above the solar panels on the Kohala side. You'll see a gate and there's about a 60-foot break right out there that goes up to be miles. Well, fire breaks are things that are cut in an actual fire. When like they're out there, one of the most important tools for a firefighter or wildland firefighter is a bulldozer. Because they go out there, they actively remove the fuel load so that the fire doesn't have anything more to burn on the front end. And those are usually unplanned and they don't like doing them. We call it But neither one of them is effective in like 50-mile-an-hour winds because most people out there have.
So you're doing, I have to get. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
So,
Pepper.
was that?
Pepper right there.
Yeah, well, that, and also, there's another one where the chief has been talking about doing a control burn or prescribed burn next year. That would be able to remove a very large quantity of fuel very quickly. The problem is it throws back pretty fast afterwards if you don't have a plan to fill and backfill with, you know, some of the liquid stuff. So that's what we're talking about, like having a reduction in fuel first. Then have a wall of like high water content, green trees, whether it's plumeria or bananas or leafy or something else, that would hopefully stop the embers from the other side. So that's the plan. We're not there yet, but we're working on it.
But that's why we're trying to give water to the goats.
Yeah.
Because the goats eat down the vegetation enough to suppress the fire.
There's like the first step, it's like a 20, like, there's a lot of steps to getting the fuel down, but the first one is getting water first of the animals.
Have you guys looked into the microgrants that the county does? They've just
Are
already
really aware of them, the CB.
impact grants.
Yeah.
So that might be a way for like the water, and I can email you the link for that. I know they just had an information session this afternoon, but maybe, I don't know, that's one avenue to explore.
Yeah, that's a good idea. When we just did this goat tour, by we, I mean Matthew, last week, maybe. So this is sort of like a new
Yeah.
idea, but yeah, we're interested in getting money to help this rancher however we can, so we can graze some of that invasive grass out there, really.
Yeah, because that's village land. And we've already leased it to the owner of the goats. But he can't track the goats in there without water.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So the goats are running free. And they run through there. There are places where they munch you down, that's not where they have.
Yeah, thank you.
There's a fair amount of nuance to the water rights issue, it's not worth explaining it. So there's detail there. Yeah, so the other thing that we need help with, so we wrote down rank writing support, but capacity in general is what we brought up, and the other vertical on that is local fundraising. And I'm not asking for money from everyone that's sitting around here right now. What I am asking is if anyone here is capable of helping, like literally go knock on doors at the plaza and the Highland Center, and like if anyone knows how to do like that real low level asking for money, so we can get those $500 checks from ACE and from the KTK and stuff like that, that would be very good. Because that's a thing that I am not good at. And we do want to demonstrate the support of people. So, putting that out there, if you are interested, email us or talk about it later. It's something that I'm putting flag. So, yeah.
So we're gonna move on to our top story. If anyone has questions or anything you'd like to discuss, this would be the great time. And then also I put in there a second road status update, of which there really isn't much of an update, but David, I don't know if you wanted to take that since you.
Sure, we
When
discussed.
we met last, yeah.
That obviously it moved it, it's in the engineering design study, is in the budget for this year, but there are many things in the county budget for this year. And so, part of it, I think, is what we talked about was, encouraging the community to maintain contact with the mayor. And so we're not looking at it, wouldn't look at it as a campaign, for testimony like it was when it was, being brought up by the council. But it's I guess an advocacy, contact with the mayor, just, appreciate that you supported it and, appreciate what the council, James and the council did and that the mayor is supporting it. But we just want to make sure, any update they can provide. So it's the kind push versus, the pestering. It's more of, and so broadening it to, having it come from the community. So some voices that they haven't heard, or, addressed because they're, we obviously have the group that is, advocating for it on a regular basis, but it's showing the broader support from the community. And so we encourage, anybody who's interested in doing that is to reach out in that, right, just to show the mayor and administration that it's broader, interest. So.
That we didn't forget. So we have
Yeah,
this, we have this money budgeted and we need to make sure that they use it and they use it before it expires.
Well, again, it's that broader, again, I think it's the seeing the broader voices, coming from the community.
Right.
It's, it isn't for the sake of, it's not the WBA Association setting in like they're going to do or regular ads. It's having seeing that they can see, hey, it is coming from the community. We've got different voices coming in.
And I do think that's an effective measure with the current mayor, and like kind of to like talk more about ways to advocate. There is the general plan that's coming through council, and I'm sure you guys are burnt out on testimonies, but the general plan, when you talk about resilience, there's a lot of things built into the general plan that do incorporate resilience. But there has been a very loud minority who has held it up at one point. It's moved on, but they will probably be showing up to testify in strength.
Are those hearings scheduled?
So the hearings are scheduled.
And I can also email the schedule.
Yeah, we can email the schedule. I will note that on the 20th at 5 p.m. and I believe it's at West Hawaii. It's all in the planning committee. Ashley Kirkowitz is the chair, Michelle Malimba is the vice. They will be hearing on the 20th the climate chapter, which is chapter 3. So what they're doing is they're doing it by chapters and they're having 2 hearings per chapter. The first one will be testimony, and then the meeting will be continued, and then discussion, presentations from, and discussion, and then I'm assuming voting, unless it gets deferred or something, but I'm assuming that's where the voting and any kind of amendments. And James, please don't hesitate to jump in, but my understanding is that they will have testimony on the first night and not on the second. Go for it, James.
Yeah, no, thank you, Administrator Casio, for talking about the general plan, and apologize I couldn't be there this evening to dive into it with you as well. But throughout the whole process with the general plan, there has been that vocal side of community wanting the county to reject it in its entirety, on different points of view, and I can respect that. But if there are things in there that speak to you, the council needs to hear that testimony. We aren't receiving oral testimony because the committee continues to be recessed. So there was an opportunity to give oral testimony when the first time we had it at committee. So please send in written testimony though. That is still be able to receive that on the general plan. But next week, yeah, please, Administrator.
James, Councilmember, can you clarify that they're not having oral testimony on the 20th? Is that what you're saying?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so written testimony only at this time. The chair decided to go that direction because the amount of testimony we received prior to council getting our hands on the general plan has been overwhelming. We saw it in the Leeward Planning Commission, the Windward Planning Commission. So at that commission level, there was a lot of testimony. We do receive email almost every day on the general plan, one way or the other, mostly in the negative, unfortunately. And there are some valid concerns in there about certain things, whether it's cultural practices and those sort of things. But so the meeting has been recessed. So basically that period within an agenda is not available. So written testimony is really the only opportunity now. But that doesn't mean that there won't be other opportunities. So right now it sits at the committee level. We have more or less a schedule for the next 6 months or so. When we're speaking on it at the committee level, the general plan doesn't really have when it comes to council, it doesn't have a restriction on its timeline. So it could sit with the council for some time. and it really depends on the amount of work that and time it will take to kind of add in things and make changes that we see fit. And we had some, to be honest with you, we had some concerns at the last time we met about some of the layout and how things connect in different sections and how they speak to each other, whether it's an objective to the policy to the action steps. So we kind of are looking for an opportunity to kind of make some of those a bit more succinct and clear, and how we actually can carry out those policies and objectives. So that's really kind of a consensus among the council members. As administrator mentioned, next week, Wednesday, we will be having a presentation from planning on chapter 3, which is on climate change. So that really speaks to OSCER and the team and the work that they're doing, to a certain extent, of course. And yeah, that'll be at 5 o'clock. We often have, every month we'll have a meeting. Some months are going to be more than others, but two meetings a month for the next few months. One in the evening at 5 and one in the morning at 9. So they kind of are scattered throughout the month. And we can also post up that information too. But I try to share all that out on my regular updates and things too.
Mom, we have that schedule.
I do, yeah, and I can email it up. Thank you, James. I would say anytime there's an opportunity you think for us to engage where it would be appropriate, I guess let us know. I do follow council, and I've not been following the general plan meetings you guys have been having yet, but if writing in testimony, because it's very hard to hear you in the room. A lot of audio excitement tonight, but if there's no oral testimony on Wednesday, but it would be the best time for some of our group to engage in written testimony under the climate chapter, we can definitely do that and get something up for next week, Wednesday. Yeah, I guess just open communication with us as your time allows to let us know where we can give some feedback and positive support to the general plan areas that support our initiatives.
Yeah, and testimony's kind of rolling, written testimony's rolling for that. I
Okay.
mean, as always, for that agenda, for that committee meeting, testimony is always due by 12 noon on the business day prior.
Yeah.
And the climate change chapter is a good place for the WSAW group, Wildfire Safety Advocates, to speak to, in terms of talking about changing climate, changing impacts of community, what growth means to the natural environment, and kind of the limited resources we have. So, you can definitely speak to that. There will be also those upcoming chapters, and I think the core group and a lot of you know about those infrastructure chapters that we'll be getting to at some point too. So that I know both of those really speak to the core of the group.
Yeah, okay.
I do have the schedule.
Thank you. Oh, okay. Molly has a schedule. She may.
We can email it out.
Okay, yeah.
I didn't realize I was still screen sharing.
I didn't know that either. Sorry. Okay, fantastic. Any other upcoming events? Any other questions that anyone in the room has for us? We're going to be participating in the October Waikōloa market, which is moving to the stables. So they're at that new venue. We haven't been participating for a few months. It's very windy and unpleasant to participate at the plaza, but we're excited about the stables being a little more sheltered from the wind. And so we'll be there. If anybody wants to volunteer at our booth, talk story with people, get some emails, we would love some volunteer support. Serena won't be here. Matt's parents will be here if anyone wants to meet the Chalkers. And yeah, please email us if you're available. And then really quickly, next month we have, I forgot his name, from the Hawaii Insurance Bureau.
Stacy Higa, I'm pretty sure.
Stacy Higa, I think, speaking to us from Hawaii Insurance Bureau, which should be really interesting and exciting to hear him talk about insurance issues in light of the state of wildfire in our state. And then James and Kendra, I have you down for December now to present at our December meeting. So we have that on our calendar. Oh, you have your hand up, James. Go ahead.
Sorry to go back to something earlier, if I may. Matt, you did talk about the engagement with Chief Todd, Kazuo Todd, and the potential for prescribed burns in the area. And I think those are ongoing conversations and ones we need to continue having. But it's I also see the opportunity to engage with the OSCER team about, you burn that area and what is that next step, right? And I know you have nonprofits and partners in the Waikōloa community, and OSCER could be one of those key people and liaison to that conversation about restoration of native areas, and then kind of building that cadre of groups that could sleuth out some of those alternative covers for the open soil.
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up because that's exactly where my mind went of like, what are you planting in place of that? And we were lucky enough to tour in Lahaina restoration effort where they're replanting natives in like high burn zones, and so really being intentional about what is going in place of that.
What are they planting?
All types of different natives like koa, ali, which you mentioned, and it's all native, so even native grasses. They have like 25 different species that they're planting. And like they would even just be probably a great community to connect with, to learn, see what they have learned. And so we could help bridge that connection. And
I'd love to hear from them what they're planting and to try to combat the invasive grasses and replace it hopefully with something that isn't so.
Yeah, and they haul water up to their site because they're up on the hillside. But since doing it, they started a couple months after the fires. They've already seen like native birds fly over, more cloud coverage come in.
They're called, the name is Kaia'ulu Initiative, so if anyone is on our newsletter, it was who we featured. We generally feature Hawaii Island organizations and groups and friends, but because we had went with the 4 county sustainability network to network with all county sustainability offices, we did that as an outplanting project with them. We featured them.
And very grassroots, like they just
they were like, we're just doing it.
Yeah.
We gotta do it. It's part of a healing process too, right? Is to spend time on land with folks.
Yeah, so thank you for that segue, James.
Yeah, perfect.
Anything else? Guys, right on time. How do we do this? I don't know. Well, thank you all for being here, and thank you so much to Molly and Laura. We really appreciate your time and just sharing your mana'o with us and being here and talking story with us, and hopefully making some new connections. I think that this is going to be a really cool partnership.
Thank you for opening the space to include us here. We really appreciate that.
Thank you, everybody. We're going to sign up the Zoom.
Thank you,
Bye, council member.